The Grey Garden is the second game created from the developer Deep Sea Prisoner. The music kicks in the very second you open the game as the title screen music plays. Deep Sea Prisoner is known for their work on other original RPGs such as Mageko's Castle and Modern Horror and the Great Blue Sea, both of which are respectively the predecessor and successor to the Grey Garden. Some of their work has been successfully turned into manga, but one of the things I love the most about Deep Sea Prisoner is the music they create and use in their game. They are an extremely talented person who seems to have mastered the art in using different forms of media in order to create their games and comics. It's unknown as to who exactly made the music, whether it was some outside source or Deep Sea Prisoner themselves. Not much has been revealed about the 5-year-old game, only the developer being mentioned in the end credits, and not much is known about them either. Despite this, the music is extremely fitting at all points in the game, going dramatic and loud when needed, and being quiet and relaxing when necessary. It opens into a very melancholic tune called A Nice Old Man that gets played later in the game that becomes an underlying theme of the world. It immediately gives the player the impression that the game they're about to play will be sad, which is really not the case. The Grey Garden takes place in the Grey World, an anomaly realm where angels and demons live together in harmony despite their tragic past in that world. It was released on Windows and Mac on December 27, 2012 and adapted into multiple languages. It has some underlying sad and dark themes to it, which is cleverly represented in the music, but it's generally a happy game. OST 2 is the opening piece for the game and it's appropriately titled Introduction, as is the music to the introduction cutscene explaining about the lore of the past of the Grey World. It's similar to the title music in the sense that they share the same melancholic feel, which is fitting as the cutscene discusses a distressing topic for both the devil and god of this world. It's played on a minor scale, the lighter keys adding a much darker and somber feeling to the game. It's clever how the light keys make it sound dark, as most musical tracks containing light keys would typically end up in a much happier and less depressing song. It carries on the sad theme that is introduced in A Nice Old Man throughout the game by being subtly played when the game hits its sadder moments. It becomes a tune the player can connect to, knowing that sadness is just a part of this world as happiness is.
OST number 10, Apple Pie, is the 10th song you hear when playing the game, if you discount the fact that nothing but a clock ticking can be heard when you enter Diallo's house. This, of course, does not include the scene that we're shown of the entire group of friends eating apple pie at Diallo's. It's a rare scene in which we get to see all of our main characters, Yosephia, Froze, Macarona, and Rawberry, alongside the side characters, Chalen and Diallo, just acting like the teenagers they are, just before the burden of saving the entire Grey World gets put on their shoulders. The song is played in a major key and uses even lighter keys to express the feelings that Deep Sea Prisoner wants to project into the fun scene. It's extremely light-hearted and upbeat to represent the happy moment the friends are all sharing. There are no elements of sadness in this song, as the player is supposed to feel like they've just stepped aside from the main storyline to really get a feel for these people and just how they connect as a group. In my opinion, some of the greatest pieces of music in this game are the battle themes, and how they change for every important character you fight within the storyline. The mundane enemies such as butterflies, worms, and the other things you can fight that aren't important or other characters all have the same OST playing for them. OST number 4, Normal Battle. This being played for all the fights produces a sense of familiarity, as you're used to being able to fight things like a bee. But the moment you hit an important fight, a boss fight if you will, the music changes for that boss. OST 49 versus Poemi plays when you enter the boss fight against Poemi. It's a totally different style to the previous songs, being a different genre of music altogether. It still contains that 8-bit feel to it, so it still fits in with the overall theme of the game. Similarly, when you enter the boss fight against a mouth, which takes place shortly after the fight against Poemi, OST number 52 versus a mouth plays. Like in OST 49, the music changes to the rock genre. It's slightly repetitive, which is fitting since a mouth is one of the very first enemies you see in the game, being a general nuisance to the characters. These little boss theme songs only play when you fight these characters, and such because of that they only ever play once in the entire game. However, when you fight these two characters together at the same time, OST number 54 versus a mouth and Poemi plays. The song is fast-paced and builds tension, just like how battle music usually tends to go. The boss music contains other instruments that we don't get to hear often in the rest of the soundtrack, such as bass guitars and drum sets. The music on the other OSTs within the game tend to be limited to the piano and other lighter instruments that don't sound heavy. This means that we get acquainted to hearing the almost rock music style whenever there is a major enemy around. It destroys and disrupts the peace we associate with the Grey World, much like how the peace is being disrupted in the game. The ending theme, OST number 62, Ending, is the closing theme for the game. It sounds like a remodeled and happier version of an earlier song in the gameplay, which, if you get the good end of the RPG, makes a lot of sense. The song no longer just includes the piano as an instrument, it also includes guitar and now has elements of that rock style we heard whilst fighting the enemies. The inclusion of this style shows that they're no longer worried about their world falling under their enemies, and instead encompass and embrace their differences and their past in order to move on to a more stable Grey World. Its difference in music shows its progression from the start of the game to now.